service to the public service. So that's why we're doing today. Today I want to hear from you. I want to be able to answer your questions on platform issues that we may have talked about or might be talking about. I want to hear about your issues. If you have ideas, let's talk about those, because Winnipeg is a great city. And it will be great, and it will continue to grow. We have so much here. It's funny because I'm one of those people that chose Winnipeg. I hear of people moving away from Winnipeg all the time. I chose to be here. I could have left several times, but I'm here because I love this city. I love what it's done for my kids. I love the family and friends we have here, and I want to see it improve each and every day. So I want to hear from you. So Jack, if you want to look for some questions, we can get things going. Do you mind if I take this coat off? Is that okay?
Yeah.
It's really hot.
Anyone want to be the first?
I could try.
First here? Do you want the microphone here?
Absolutely. Thank you for the mic, by the way.
Should be on now for you.
I'm just going to stand so everyone can see me. My name is Frances. I'm 35 years old. I say my age because my age demographic tends to get buried when we start to raise our voice. Obviously, I'm working age. I have a family. I have to work. I work 4 jobs, believe it or not, to be able to afford to continue to provide for my children. My biggest issue, and I briefly spoke about it with Kevin. Sorry.
Calvin Klein, I wish was my dad.
That's my first go-to, and I know it's wrong every time. Is I obviously am one of the ones that have to work late evening shifts, especially when I work at either the bar, the Assiniboine Gordon Inn, which is not too far down the street here, and the Winnipeg Blue Bomber Stadium. Buses. A lot of those games, a lot of those shifts are Saturdays and Sundays, evenings. Most of those shifts end at 10 p.m. or 11 p.m. So it's before the province kicks in with having the employer send you home via
Taxi.
Taxi, thank you. And you can tell I lost my voice at the last game. So buses actually, I found out when I moved into Charleswood in October of last year, that the buses stop running at 8 p.m. And so essentially the last bus you can catch is the Grant 66. It stops at the DF Loop, turns around and stops working. Or doesn't stop working, but just stops providing service. Which means over 1,000 community members, 14 at the time when I first found out, have to walk from the DF Loop into essentially where Dale is. I live on Cullen, so I have to walk down, still continue to walk down Dale to Cullen. And then even 2 or 3 people still have to walk into Ridgewood West. There are 2 other routes that I learned are available to us, but they're fairly dangerous. The other route is taking an 11, St. Charles, onto St. Charles Street to Portage and walking down the perimeter, which, believe it or not, is not crazy dangerous, but when cars are surprised to see a bunch of people, a group of people walking down the perimeter, they tend to stop and swerve and don't do all kinds of crazy things. Or go all the way to St. Charles Street Parishioner, and walk across the river if it's frozen. My request, if you do become mayor, or to continue fighting it, if you stay on council after this.
Oh, I don't.
Oh, okay.
I wish. It's all or nothing.
Yay, then I am definitely voting for you. Is to extend service into Charleswood. At the very least till midnight, when other people can start taking the taxis home on our employers' dollars. Start service at 6 a.m. for those who work the early mornings. Start the early morning shifts, because that was the other thing, is Saturdays and Sundays buses don't start till 11 a.m., making it near impossible for the working age to be able to make it to work, to get home from work. But also maybe extended into Ridgewood West, which has now, I think, established itself now that it's half built, and it's continuing to grow each and every summer with houses popping up every couple of days. So if that's possible, and what is your stance? Is that something you're going to fight for us for?
Fran, first of all, it's unfortunate you have to go through all that. So thank you very much for sharing that with us and for working 4 jobs. That's I mean that's incredible. Incredible. You know, I don't always want to complain about the system unless we have solutions. I didn't vote for the transit master plan because I didn't think it was effective.
Yeah.
If we don't have a safe, number one, effective and efficient transit system, we cannot grow and we cannot say that we're trying to be environmentally friendly.
Yeah.
Yours isn't the first time I've heard this. I worked with 32 employees from the new outlet mall. Their shift ends at 10 o'clock. The bus there stops at 9:50. So we fought for months and months and months to have that extended by 20 minutes. They'll get out there in 10 minutes if you just extend it. And the answer is no. Yet we continuously are throwing hundreds of millions of dollars into bus infrastructure for a system that is broken. And part of my time on council, especially recently, is saying, look, we have this transit advisory council that sends us all these recommendations and tells us, well, the routes in Charleswood and out there are perfect. But we're hearing from residents that they're not. My objective in this situation is when we get into the mayor's office, we don't say if, when we get into the mayor's office, that we will have a transit advisory committee that meets publicly and will be made up of people that ride the bus and that can tell us what's going on. Right now, a lot of it is managers. There's some people that are related on that transit advisory committee as well. And they refuse to go public. So we will make, most importantly, it's safe for our residents. The number one rule or order in the Winnipeg Charter is that we're supposed to protect the residents of Winnipeg. That's number one. Having you walk on the perimeter or walk across a frozen river to get home is just unacceptable. Unacceptable. So we need to change. We need to fix the problems now and then develop the long-term solution. That's what we need to do today. And I, you know, I've heard it from so many people, and I hear people saying, "Oh, we just can't find employees." Well, they can't get to work without paying for a cab. They can't get home from work without paying for a cab. That's on the city. That's on the city. We need to build the programs. We need to create the environment for people to benefit from using transit. You know, it took my son an hour and a half to get to U of W on a bus. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. So, it is one of our top priorities is to address the route scheduling because it has to be efficient for you first. So, thank you for that question.
As soon as the chair opens up on that advisory board, I'll definitely take it.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think I already had you give the stuff to you. Good.
Question over here.
No way.
Guys on here?
So you're one of our alumni then?
Yes.
Oh, nice.
Mr. Klein,
Call me Kevin, please.
I'm Dick Bowles, and I'm living here in the high-rise.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And over the years, I think you may have heard from me or your assistant, and the request is to twin this entrance of ours to Portage Avenue. And one easy way of doing that would be to take away the parking of River City Ford on the right-hand side. Now, that isn't the only widening that you would need, but it would be a great part of the widening of our entrance here. Our entrance is by far the most used entrance to Portage Avenue. And I can tell you that, and probably many others can tell you that. Because, you know, if you count the cars or vehicles that need this entrance to Portage Avenue, It is by far the most frequently used entrance. And River City Ford, they have, twin entrances to Portage Avenue. Some of those are not even used, and they are there. Now, so I would really want the entrance to Portage Avenue increased to twinning it or widening it at least. And the first thing would be to take away the parking that River City Ford does along our entrance.
Okay, so it's a very detailed question, so thank you for that. And again, in this campaign, we have committed, and all of us have taken the vow, if you will, when we provide an answer or if we provide a solution for something, it has to be deliverable. It has to be achievable. We don't want to give any false promises, any false hopes. We want this to be about action. What can we do today, and how do we work at making it better in the future? So let me tell you what I can do today. I'm not certain right now, sir, if that's a city property where we can control what's happening there, but between Jack and I, we'll be in the office tomorrow, we'll find out. And if it has something to do with the property owners, we can start that discussion. At the same time, I have another committee meeting coming up on council at the end of August, and I will put forward a motion at that committee to have our traffic safety engineers come out and do a study on the traffic issue you have here, and that will get the ball rolling. So I can promise to do that, but I can't promise you when that solution will happen, but we will get the ball rolling on it right away.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Jack's asking him for his email and stuff. Questions?
Next question, up at the front here. There you go, mic is on and
You're not going to
working.
speak?
Kevin?
Yes.
Pleasure to meet you.
You too.
I'm, Carol and I are from the Pole Park area.
Oh, great.
And I've tried desperately to meet Scott Gillingham. It's not happening. We have serious mental health issues in the Pole Park area. I'm wondering what possibly can the city of Winnipeg do, or is that more of a provincial matter? I'll leave it at that.
What was her name? Sorry, I got Carol's.
Lauren Green.
Lauren Green.
You didn't recognize me.
No, I didn't recognize it, but I loved you in Bonanza. I get that same problem.
Yeah, younger generation, I go Bonanza, they go. Yeah, Battlestar Galactica.
Old TV show and great restaurant. So, I think you'll hear often the city pointing to different levels of government for, well, that's a social issue there, and this is a social issue over there. And we've heard several times you can't arrest your way out of it. So again, we, especially Nancy and Larry and I, we've been meeting with the stakeholders in the city that are actually getting things done, and working with people that are suffering from addiction right now, or are having other issues. And these groups are working with people to connect them. We came from a place today that offers housing for individuals that are coming off an addiction. They're working hard. They have 24-hour support there. These are the people that I think we need to spend our time with. Right now, the city isn't accepting the responsibility by saying we need to protect all residents. All people in Winnipeg matter. No matter where they live, they all matter. And we have to start working together. And I hate to say collaboratively, but we need to get everybody at the table working on what they do best. And we're talking. We had a great meeting with the Winnipeg Police Association today to talk about some other changes that we hope to announce on Friday. In our discussions, we've had a discussion with the Bear Clan about how they can help. I don't think it's speaking out of turn. We've spoken with an airline that we're working to get on board to help by reconnecting families to their northern relatives if they want to go home. I think there's a lot of solutions to this big problem. I don't want to point the finger at the province or the feds, but there is one answer, and that's to actually do something about it. And we haven't really done anything about it. And that's not what I will not sit there and allow this to continue to happen. It's not safe for anybody. And we have an obligation to protect the citizens of Winnipeg, all of them. And that's what we're going to work to do. We are going to be announcing as well an advisory board, a homelessness or an affordable housing advisory board made up of people that are working in the industry so that they sit at the table and talk together. That doesn't happen today. I know we hear that it does, but there seems to be everyone in their own silo. We need to break down those silos. I know that there's been talk of different responses and response teams and such, but again, that's the long term. We need to deal with it today. And we've already started reaching out to the mental health department, the Manitoba government. Nancy's background is she was one of the founders or creators of the mental health department for Manitoba Health. So I think we're going down a really good path. And that's what we need to do, right? Is we need to get on that path instead of saying, oh, we have this, we've learned about this from this jurisdiction or whatever. It's like, well, show me. And meeting with those people, and I've met with people that Marion Willis has helped through her program. These are people that I want to give back in the community and help their fellow brothers and sisters that are still stuck on the street dealing with addiction and other mental health issues. We need to empower them. They know how to get the job done, and they know how we can fix this problem. That's what we'll do.
The hotel that's just being built at St. Matthews and Madison Street, I challenged that because I was told that it was going to be a seniors residence for Aboriginal seniors. And I thought, great, that's what we need. And then it turns out it's now a hotel. So I had challenged it a year or so ago. Some of my personal experience has been finding a body in the back lane.
Take your time.
Behind my garage, arriving home at 8:30 at night, there's a body laying there. I've had a man at my front door stabbed 4 times. He's from a rental house, and the following Friday he came back and thanked me for help. That's just a couple of examples. I get very emotional about it.
Yeah, I'm so sorry you had to go through that. I have a lot of friends that are members of the service, and if you imagine that happening to you, they unfortunately are seeing this on an hourly basis now.
They responded quickly, I have to say, paramedics and police.
Yeah. And therein lies the problem, is that you have a lot of political gestures, virtue signaling, if you will, is that you have to defund police, you have to find a different way, we have to fix the problem. You shouldn't have to come home for you or for that individual and find a body. And we need to, again, it's a lot. There's a lot of solutions to the problem, but one answer is that we have to get started on it. And that I commit to people. That is my number one concern, the safe neighborhoods for everyone. The well-being of residents is number one. And I think our service is in a critical situation. I don't want to say distraught, but they're a critical situation where members are dealing with this on a daily basis. I found out today that the city of Winnipeg takes more guns off the streets than the city of Toronto. Not per capita, total number. And we have 2 members that are responsible for that. That's a problem. And we're not telling you about it. We're not discussing it. We need to discuss it. If you remember back, sure you were all here when Clean Sweep happened. And, we addressed the problem and we got proactive on that problem. And you hear a lot of politicians, we need proactive policing. When you have 200 calls, 911 calls, waiting to be answered, how can you do proactive policing? You're consistently going from one call to another call, to another call, to another call, to another call, to another call. So we have to work with our partners, being the Winnipeg Health Authority, because if an individual is taken to hospital, officers are required to stay there. But there are programs that can help with that can allow those officers to get back on the street, because in some cases they'll spend 10 hours there. just waiting for the person to be seen by a doctor. But it can be fixed. There's other provinces that have fixed it. So we have to be able to give the support back to those that are maintaining law and order on our streets. But we also have to have, this is a true story, I haven't met one member of the Winnipeg Police Service yet that said, I wish I had somewhere where I could take these people for help. They're not in the business of just arresting people, but they don't know where to go because we're not providing that. The housing unit, like we talked about, pays, they have a very small budget. And they pay top dollar for taxes. So we're not helping them. You know, it wants to create more units so that they can house more people. We're charging them thousands and thousands of dollars when they don't have it on permits. And we're delaying it. They waited from December until June so that they could get it, which a family that didn't have anywhere to live had to continue doing what they were doing until they could get the permits from the city so they could move into their place. How is that changing or helping? That can't be us. That's not Winnipeg. That's not we're friendly Manitoba. We help each other. So we really need to have the people in the room, and I can tell you, I'll tell you this right now. I don't have all the answers. But I'll be damned if I won't go find people that do. And I'll get them at a table and I'll give them everything they need to fix the problem, and I'll get out of their way so that they can get it fixed. I don't need a statue. I need everyone to be safe. That's what this is going to be about.
One last comment. I had occasion to be in touch with the new addiction center up on Ness Avenue.
Yes.
They're overwhelmed already.
Yeah.
They've only just opened.
I know.
They can't take any more people. They're overwhelmed.
Yeah. I had a conversation with the gentleman, we won't say his name, but Scott, everyone knows. 600 people. 600 people on the waiting list.
Yeah.
600 people. And again, the city of Winnipeg has vacant buildings all over the city. So why wouldn't we do our part and be leaders and hand those buildings over to those organizations with the caveat that they're helping people and that they follow a certain path and they get the work done and they work with our residents. We could put that accountability factor in there, and we should. But we have a lot of buildings and a lot of vacant land that we could be turning over to address the problem. And once we're in the mayor's office, that's going to become a focus. We have a meeting tomorrow with a national organization that is actually helping Calgary and Edmonton do this today. And some of you might remember Homes for Heroes and the fight we had here. We're in Ontario. Rob Ford gave them 4 parcels of land and millions of dollars and want to give them more. They can't keep up to them. They can't keep up to what Ontario wants to give them. We turned them away for 4 years. No more. That's just not acceptable anymore. This can't be about personal objectives, personal feelings, or creating silos. They have to all come down and focus on one thing, and that is making Winnipeg better. We will. We will. Okay.
Questions?
Whoever came late has to sing.
Was that a question at the back there? Was that a question at the back?
Anybody with a question? Come on.
I have another one.
Can I add?
We'll do seconds after we get everyone
Okay.
on the first round.
I don't want to be a hog.
Just kind of taking charge.
Yeah, I don't want to be a hog.
Everyone yells in the office. It's terrible.
Hi, I'm Janet Bailey. I don't live in this area, but I volunteering for Kevin's campaign. Around this issue, there's so many complexities. I was a school social worker for quite a many years, and the supports for the most important period in all those people you're dealing with is the first 9 months to a year. When you leave the mother alone with the child, and it's just a mistake. And there are all kinds of visiting programs in other places that would be helpful because the child's bonding is done in the 9 months to a year. A friend and I, she's from Finland, where they have the Finnish baby boxes, that every mother in Finland gets with all the equipment we would need for the first 8 months. It's policy. The wealthy still take it because it tells them what they need for this child. We tried to get a program where we could get the community, seniors get knitting clothes and, all sorts of things. The bureaucracy, and this is, I think, our big problem, said that they declared them not safe. Whole countries do this. Spain has just adopted them because it's such a support for the mother with this incredible task that she's taking on, and we can't afford all the things. I was blown away. That is somebody going berserk with rules and regs.
Yeah.
And we could have made it so good with designs on the boxes from various cultures.
Yep.
It could have been wonderful. And knowing that the community cared enough about them and to help them. I would smoke.
Okay.
We had to do that.
Could you speak into the mic, please?
Yeah.
Could you
They
speak
can't
into
hear
the
you
mic?
back here.
Okay. The other thing that happened, I have.
Is there a question though?
How are you, that's the province, but the city with all the permits and so forth is a problem too.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
And how do we get them moving faster? Because literally that really
Yeah.
has to happen.
That's a very good question, Bev, and thank you for your help, by the way. We have a policy we are going to announce on that soon. We want to create a program for these housing units that are showing accountability, that are getting people in there. The one thing we know for certain, without question, that every medical and mental health expert will tell you is when someone has made the decision to beat their addictions and to get back, that's the best time to get them. You have to have resources available to help them at that minute. You can't say, okay, come back and see us in a year or so and see if we have room. It doesn't work, it fails. So we want to be able to help these organizations. Again, I said we have a meeting tomorrow with this group that works federally and it works across the nation, helping cities like Edmonton and Calgary develop more of this style of housing. The group we've met with today, the two groups, Maccoon and Sam House. Is that what it's called?
Management, yeah.
Sam Management. They do what you're talking about. They bring families back together. They bring them into their apartments. They get them back on life. They help them shop. They help teach the basics. They support them as they're returning back to or taking a different path in their life, which is great. So them having to wait 6 months to help a family will not happen anymore. We need to have an express lane for items like this. We need to have one or two or more staff, if we have to, dedicated to those organizations to help them get their permits and get going. The problem is that the city right now, and in the permitting department, has some problems. I mean, we all know it. We've all heard about the inspectors issue. We've heard about all the permits and people waiting for a long time. But it's also the most underfunded department at the city of Winnipeg. And it is what generates our growth. It is what generates the most revenue. So we are planning in working with these organizations to come up with the right recipe and looking at talking to some planning individuals that we have tomorrow. Say what is the short-term answer, and then what's the long-term fix to make sure it doesn't happen anymore. So we need to help them, and then we need to put a process in place. So that's coming in the coming weeks.
Does zoning and permits still close once a week to the public?
Yeah.
Because they're too busy to deal with them?
Yeah.
To catch up on their paperwork?
Yeah. What paperwork? Nothing's going out. But yeah, that, again.
There's just not enough people.
At council I asked, I said the city of Calgary, city of Regina has, I think it's a 5 or 10 day guarantee for your permit for simple work that you're doing, renovation or around your house. And the city of Winnipeg said, oh, we do that. But I haven't found one person yet. I'm still looking for that golden goose. But it's embarrassing to me to know that Regina can. Why can't we? And we will. We just have to, we're going to meet with the professionals and we're going to find a way to fix it, short term and long term.
Hi, Kevin.
Hi.
It's about permits.
Is it?
Yeah. You know what we're doing here.
Yeah.
We submitted our permit to do the work on the memorial, and it came back. We need copies of 3 caveats that are on your land title. All 3 on the land title are city caveats. Aren't they able to look it up? The first 76 I know the other one's probably the upper the houses and the rest are easements for sewer, water and that. And to go online through Manitoba land titles, it costs you around $114 for each electronic copy or something like that, if I read it correctly. I have found other ways, and I'm trying to do that without cost. But to me, that's not customer service, and you are the guys who put the easements in. So that's something that should be looked into and also improve customer service and stop these unnecessary delays.
Absolutely unnecessary delays. I'm sorry about that. I really honestly wish I could say I'm surprised. I do. But these are the items that I'm hearing every day, but I'm not hearing anybody talk about. That's one of the reasons I decided to run. The city of Winnipeg, in my opinion, I come from, I grew up in government housing. I understand and I know the troubles my mom went through to raise 3 boys, especially us 3. And how difficult it was. And I think I said to Nancy when I pulled up to the building, it was a shock. It was like, I said it brought back memories, but it pulled me back a little bit. Because that's how we lived. Nothing wrong with that. But going through business, the mentors that I've had as a senior executive have taught me, and one of them was, really was clear in the fact that a city is like a corporation in essence. We are a corporate division of the government of Manitoba. We have issues that we are responsible for dealing with. They are our priorities: roads, safety, permits, building, and we're failing on the core issues because we're busy doing virtue signaling on a number of other projects, but they don't get to the root of the problem or solve the problem that you're having. We're seeing, I think it was only a month ago, that Stats Canada said the 2 of the fastest growing cities in Western Canada was Niverville and West St. Paul. Accurate numbers, because they're leaving here, because the number in Winnipeg dropped. But our immigration level stayed consistent. So we're losing people to the outside for various reasons, and one of them is that I worked with a gentleman who wanted to get a driveway redone. 1.5 years. I would have done it after waiting 1.5 years, or I would have moved. He was a very patient man. But we have to improve that by making sure that we're allocating resources properly. When the city of Winnipeg does a budget, when councillors are involved in the budget, we're not allowed to ask how many people work in that department. Well, we brought on 4 more people. Where do they work? In property planning and development. What do? They work in property planning and development. Are they helping put out permits? Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, how come we're getting complaints? More permits are coming in. Are you bringing in more people or reallocating people to deal with that? No, they work in property planning and development. And we got to take Fridays off because we're very busy. Very busy. So these are the items that I look at from coming from the corporate world and saying, we can fix these. We can fix these. It's a change of culture. It's a change of management. But we haven't had really a change of management in City Hall for decades. It's been the same people going up the ladder. Some of them are excellent staff. We have some amazing young people there. We have to allow them to get engaged and find a better way, find new ways, find an efficient way. And that is one of the areas that has to change. And that is one of those areas that needs immediate attention and needs to be fixed for the long term.
Yeah, on the side of that, I remember when we upgraded our old house, because of the age of it, and value at the time, we would get 3 years, $500 off our taxes. Trouble is, the permits cost us $1,000. And after the first year the work was done, we were paying much more property increase. So really that's not a true incentive. I know it's there as an incentive program, but it doesn't actually work that way. And also we found that the inspectors hadn't come and checked the electric and other stuff was done properly to the garage. And when I was doing some other work, we found that they let wires be put through old tree roots and stuff like that. So really, it's not an incentive, it's a decentive.
If you want the easements, just go to land titles in person and get the easements, get a copy of your title. Yeah, it's going to be $20 or something. It's not that much online, it's $100. It's less online than in person.
Kevin, next
Less
question.
online. Okay, we'll come back to that in a second. Let me just let me finish off on that point.
Yes, I know. Well, no, land titles is the province actually.
Well, I know that.
Yeah, but it's not.
All right, they solved it. Good. We'll go over here.
We got time?
Not for you. I can go get a nap if anybody wants to. This would be the time.
I work in Point Douglas with community activists Sal Burrows and Marion Willis, both on the topic of homelessness. Both
should introduce yourself because people are going to know who you are.
I didn't come. This is your show. I'm
okay.
not coming here to steal your thunder. I will say that in conversations with both of them earlier this morning and yesterday, they both, one from staunch liberal Trudeau when he came to town, it was on the security detail, and the other one is far left of center with the NDP, and they're both strongly endorsing the programs of your leadership. So that speaks a few volumes. But on this topic, there are 200 residents that we have in the city of Winnipeg that are vacated. They have the windows boarded up. They are frequented by people who are homeless. They use a Robertson number 2 instead of more secure fasteners and cheap plywood because they're bad landlords. These places get broken into in the winter. They set fires to get warm, and you can see the tragedy starts to unfold. My question is that most of the landlords of these properties are, some don't ever come to North America. They're from Vietnam, Macau, Hong Kong. The question remains how you maintain a vacant property for 5 years as part of a business plan. I've been a cop for 34 years. I can tell you that only says one thing. They're laundering money through vacated properties in Winnipeg. No one currently has shown leadership to say, we have a solution for this. We start to charge for the emergency services. They'll charge you if they mow their lawn.
So I want to stop you there because I put a motion forward to start charging for emergency services to all vacant homes. If they're called out, if fire or police are called out, motion went in about a month ago to say we have to start charging them. I put a motion in to have a sliding scale that goes up every year. I put that motion forward. All the members of the APC, our finance chair who's running, said no. We're just going to we'll put this $2,000 fee a year on, which is peanuts. So 1 year it has to be $5,000. The next year it has to be $10,000. Every call has to be $10,000 until they just don't want to pay it anymore or finally give it to somebody who's going to build a decent house there.
Most of the houses have a minimum amount of equity attached to them. Yeah. So you don't have to be as dramatic, although I like your thinking. Simply bill them for the actual billable hours of police services, which with ambulance and fire, also they don't have insurance on the properties anymore. The insurance companies won't insure them, which begs the question, how do you maintain this vacant house all this time? So if we put those on and then we go for the property tax and seize these properties, and then we probably find some business or an upstart NGO or even the city of Winnipeg, and we start to develop homes for these homeless people. Most of these houses are in neighborhoods that most of us here in St. James aren't ever going to visit. But I'm there virtually every day, and I can tell you, that would be a great idea. And it takes leadership, which I'm hoping as your third pillar of your campaign, that you would, I won't say promise, but put your usual effort into, and hopefully we have a bit of change of personnel and we can get some of these things done.
I agree. Thank you. I think the short-term solution, as I was alluding to, I think the short-term answer on this right now is to start applying the fines and fine them often and as often as we can, so that we're applying pressure to take some kind of action on the home, or they don't pay them and then we can take them back on a tax issue. The long term is to work with the provincial government and legal services to find out what path we have to take where we can just take back the property or assume the property if it hasn't been attended to for so long. So that becomes a deeper dive into the legal system. I'm sure there's a way, but quickly we put in the charges for everything so that the people of Winnipeg aren't paying for their lack of concern or lack of management of their properties. And long term, we find a way that we can get them back and give them to the community. Tax sales should go to the community. So.
Is it possible for what he's adding on to this, is it possible for any landlords that aren't local to Winnipeg, Manitoba, whatever, or international landlords to possibly pay a higher tax so they're forced to take care of their properties? And if they don't, then the city will take away their property and sell it to someone who's in the city to be able to take care of it?
So yeah, and as Tim was alluding to, Vancouver does something similar to that. So again, we need a short-term solution to get working on it while we work on the long-term, because it is going to take a legal process to get there. It's not just getting into office and saying from now on you have to pay this much and we're taking your land back. That's like the typical political promise, and that's just not realistic. So there are solutions, right? And we just have to start putting them in. We have to be brave enough to make those solutions or to enact the solutions. I did previously, not that long ago, at community committee where I sit on with Janice Lukes and Councillor Gillingham, put a motion forward saying we need to take an immediate action on, it's an investment, it's speculation investments, they're called. So when somebody buys a property that's not in the area, they buy it on what is termed as speculative investing. It could be used for other means. But I wanted to put a stop to that, like other cities are starting to do it. It was immediately voted down, no discussion. It doesn't bring revenue to the city. That home that is paying minimum taxes probably cost us $200,000 a year if we have to call emergency services out there 3, 4, 5 times. It's costing you and I money. When we have a council that's afraid to go after them and say, no, this isn't going to happen anymore. We can't have that. We have to have immediate action to work on the solution while we're looking at the long term to make sure we're doing the right thing, we're legal, we don't get into, we don't need any more lawsuits. We have more lawsuits than anybody can handle. We don't need any more, but we need to dig into those, find the right way to do it, and implement it. So that's what we would do. Is there a problem?
Yeah, please, thanks, Joe. Kevin, Hal Anderson.
I'm sorry, who are you?
Hal Anderson, Kevin.
Hal Anderson.
Thank you. By the way, that is Tim Dyack, who is running in St. James, and I think he deserves a proper introduction, so I wanted to do that as well. I really don't want to take away from these people who are here to ask you questions, talk to you, and
I don't know why you're yelling at me.
I'm sorry. I forgot I'm not on the radio anymore. But I did want to say that I hope you are our mayor, and I hope that I'm there with you trying to make change, right?
Thank
you. Just as a taxpayer and as a radio host over the years who's watched the mess that I sometimes call Silly Hall, I call it Silly Hall, or I did when I was on the radio.
Appropriate.
Help me understand something, and this is my biggest frustration as a taxpayer. Some of this stuff is really complex and difficult, and it's going to take a long time to fix, right? If that, in some cases, we may not even be able to fix some of this stuff. But where's the common sense? Some of this stuff is so simple, Kevin, and there seems to be no common. I know how hard you've worked for 4 years, and some of the things you've presented have been so commonsensical. I don't understand why this stuff. Why it's not a unanimous, yeah, let's do that. That makes sense. And many of the great ideas come from people at groups like this.
Yeah.
Where's the common sense?
It's a good question. We put in over 100 motions. That's a record at City Hall. In 4 years, we put forward 100 policy changes, suggestions for policy changes to put every councillor on the budget working group. It got denied 3 times to have transit safety become a public issue, to have an emergency. We didn't have an emergency. They refused to have an emergency meeting on transit safety after a 16-year-old was taken from a bus stop and assaulted.
Yeah.
But that wasn't a big enough problem because there's fear. There's fear at Public Hall, there's fear at Public City Hall, and there's fear among elected officials that there's some items they just don't want to talk about. And I get that, but you're a leader. You're not you're not a cheerleader. Right? You're not elected to talk about all the great things that are happening and just focus on those and pretend like everything else is not happening. You have to lead. So you can enjoy the good times. You can enjoy the positive things that are happening in the city, and there's many, but you have to be strong enough to lead and say, no, we have to be firm on this. We have to take an action on this because it's best for the city. You can't look at it from yourself. And that's what happens, right? We get into a situation now, and it's happened over the decades, where the city council used to be, if you look at it from a corporation, let's pretend it's a corporation for a couple of minutes.
Well, it would be broke if it was a corporation, but yes,
yeah,
let's use that analogy.
Yeah.
It would be out of business.
Yeah, and if Conrad was the boss, whoop, we'd be in trouble. But if you look at it, is a corporation, it is under the law, we're the city of Winnipeg, the corporation of the city of Winnipeg. But the board of directors is the council, elected by all the shareholders. And you're all the shareholders, and you buy shares every year called your property taxes. And we're supposed to be the stewards of that money. Make sure it's being spent appropriately. Ask the tough questions. Demand answers so that we can answer residents instead of saying, I don't know. Or the hardest part for me is they won't answer me. I don't know. So that's where this complacency has come in, and it's so bad now because you have just a hand-picked group of the mayor will hand-pick, that really it's one side is now in charge of the other. And that's why things aren't happening. That's my view, that's my personal opinion. But if there's no oversight, there's nobody holding the people in positions of power accountable, people that are making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, why would they listen? So we have to change, we have to reverse that and say, look, we're elected, we have 4 years to do our job. And in that 4 years, we have to hold you accountable for what you're doing, because if you call 311 or if you see a pothole, which is almost impossible not to, so I've been telling residents, oh, no, waiting pools. Not potholes, waiting pools. We hear the brunt of it. We hear the calls. But you call the public service and you kind of get, well, we're working on it. Well, I need more than that. Yeah. I need to know how you're working on it. I want some deadlines. I had a resident call, Jack or Imran would know, about a tree that needed to be trimmed, the branch. And the city gave them a date that it would be done by, 2035.
Wow.
Under promise, over perform. So we need to change the policy. And everyone says, well, you can't pick on the... I'm not picking on the public service. We need to change the policy as council and say 2035 is not acceptable. What needs to change to meet the needs of the residents? And you can't say, oh, we're going to have special groups in every part of the city that are going to respond to all things. You can't do that. There's union lines, there's position lines, there's requirements for safety, there's requirements for certain trades. You just can't make that kind of a blanket statement. That's a promise. That's a political promise. The reality is that we have to go to the public service and say, this is our expectation, and our expectation is what the residents expect. So we need you to live up to this expectation. Now, how do we get there? Let's have the conversation. And if you get answers back saying it's not enough detail, let's have more. When they come to council, do you know your council members, there's 15 of them plus the mayor, they get one choice, yes or no. You can't change it. You could have moved an amending motion, but it had to be earlier, you had to follow this process, but you only get 4 days to read everything and research it. So you get one choice. We don't get, this would work, and this would work, and this would work. This is what comes with A, B, and C. One choice, yes or no. And if you say no, all of a sudden, oh, well, you don't care about kids' safety because you didn't vote for that. That's childish. That's not how you run a corporation. So that's why. And that's why we need, I like the people that work at city council, but this is a democratic country. We fought for democratic rights. We had women and men that died for democracy. And people aren't running for council seats. They're not, because we've given up. So if I can suggest anything to anybody in Winnipeg, is don't give up. Don't give in. Push back, because you can win. And that gets into the complacency. There should be people running in every ward.
Agreed. Thanks, Kevin. Good luck.
Thanks, Al. Yeah. Next question's over here.
Oh, hi. So I don't want to harp on this. I'm an electrician, but kind of going back to what the gentleman over there said, and going by what your answer was, if you're elected, and like, are you okay with people just doing it without the permit based on?
Am I okay with people doing it without getting a permit?
Yeah, you just went on for like 5 minutes saying how useless City Hall is.
I didn't say it was useless. I said the policies were wrong.
They're nonsensical. They don't have common sense. So,
well, you're boiling everything into one ball here. So let's be specific.
Okay, specifically, if a permit lasts longer, if it's on the books for longer than a year, you said it to your neighbor, you would have just did it. So are you okay with neighbors just do it?
I'm saying I would have done it, so we need to fix the problem. I'm certainly not advocating for people to just go and create anarchy. I think we have enough anarchy in the city. We need to take away anarchy. So I never said that.
Well, you said you would have done it.
I said I would have done it. Yeah, and then we had to have an amnesty program that was put forward by Councillor Nason for a certain amount of period, a certain time, because do you know what, there's a department in the Public Service Department, you know what they do all day? They look for houses being sold, they read the reviews, and if they see that there is a basement, a finished basement in the advertisement, they wait until the house sells, and they go over there and they find the people that bought the house.
Wow.
Is that what you want your money spent on?
I don't hear an answer to, like.
I said no.
No, does someone need, like, we have permits and they take forever.
You're waiting for the permits, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, there is an answer coming on it. We are, first of all, have to look, the short-term answer is we're going to put in a policy that expedites certain types of permits, like they do in other jurisdictions. That's a quick fix. That's something that can be done.
What type of permits? Electrical?
I don't know about electrical. I can look for you and see how quickly they can go. I know in some other provinces that electrical can, if they're sealed, they have the right to guarantee their work, or they confirm their work. And in some provinces and jurisdictions, there's a spot checks, and you don't have to wait for inspections. Because if you're an electrician, you answer to a higher body as well, right? You have a higher calling, and we need to respect that. We need to respect that you're educated in your field and that you're going to do the right thing. You're not going to do work that's going to be shoddy. So we could speed up a lot of the process that we did. We do that for engineers. We get an engineer's report that it comes from a sealed engineer. You would know this. That means a lot when they put their seal on it and we question it because we didn't accept it. So I think there's ways of improving the system and improving how quickly things get done by looking at best practices in different jurisdictions and looking at how we're allocating resources. It's not okay to take Friday off to catch up on paperwork. I don't think you would tell that to your clients.
Could that also mean that the city of Winnipeg could hire more people for the permit office to help those inspectors get that paperwork done and get those permits out faster?
Well, it makes sense. I don't want to say specifically because you have to get in the department to look at it. So there's different programs that you can put into place. There's lean programs or whatever that people are all afraid of, but you go in and look for efficiencies. Right? So if you go in and you look at the department, you send somebody in who's an expert and talk to the experts, people that have worked there have moved on, they're calling me all the time.
Yeah.
And saying, if we did this and they did that, this would be a lot faster. They did this or did that, this would be a lot faster. So our intention is to meet with every one of them.
Okay.
And listen to them all to come up with a program that we can take in there and start changing. It would be unfair for me to say I can change it overnight.
Yeah.
But the short term is going in there and creating an express lane for permits, especially for homes, not for skyscrapers and such. There's a lot more work to go into that. If you're having a renovation done, if you're having a new plug put in, that type of stuff, we need to have an express lane. If you're not-for-profit housing and you need to bring in a new family, so you have to expand it or knock out a wall that's not that your engineer says is safe, that kind of stuff I'm talking about is a short-term solution. The long-term solution is really digging deep into that department, because I think we've heard about problems with PP&D for years and nobody's done it.
Yeah.
So we will do something. We're not afraid to take that on. We will take it on because it does have to change. But don't do the work without a permit and then call me.
Next question.
Did you have one?
Yeah. Question back here. Should be off there.
Kevin, I had a question about derelict buildings, which Point Douglas back here has kind of answered.
St. James. Equate to St. James, yes.
You work
at Point Douglas.
All right. I'm in St. James. So, I've also noticed in the Pole Park area, derelict properties where Chinese money has gone. So I've asked myself, could they be laundering money here in our city through these buildings? One such building was marked for demolition. Hydro had removed the power. Next thing I know, they're hooking the power up. And I'm going, well, what's going on? Oh, a Chinaman from Vancouver bought the property. And now he's going to rent it out. And I'm going, how is this possible? Well, we were told to hook up the power. So it was done.
It's hard for me to get into specific properties and
so
talk about specific properties.
There seems to be a huge delay in demolition permits for derelict properties. I don't understand it. We got one on my back lane where the fence is falling into the back lane now. It's been left that long.
So that's the accountability factor that I'm talking about.
Yes,
Do we have enough resources
Exactly.
get out there and get that work, to force that work along, but also not force that people are waiting, like how can we help expedite the process?
You can't demolish a building unless you have a building permit in place. It's so stupid.
Right. It's gonna come to that, yeah. That's the other thing, you have to apply for a building permit for a place that you can't. Yeah, unless it's unsafe.
One other thing I've noticed happening in the city, Kevin, is, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but it seems that in the road repair around the city, they've gone away from using concrete. They're laying in like 8 inches of black asphalt.
Oh.
Bitumen.
There's certain roads that are treated as with concrete, full refurbished roads. And there's some that are selected as they just need repairs for right now, and they'll be fixed in the next 10 years or 20 years or whatever it is. So there's levels of repair work that happens. The concrete work takes a lot longer and it's a lot more expensive. But you need to see more of the overlay work where they're addressing road maintenance issues. And then I think that's what we're missing when you look at our roads. If you see cracks in the road, I've talked to an engineer, teaches engineering at the University of Manitoba, that we don't fill our cracks anymore. Yeah. So you get a crack in an asphalt road, water gets in there, seeps into the ground, and then nature takes over, and that's what happens. So I don't know what has happened to the city's maintenance program. I don't know why those aren't a priority, but that's what we have to find out. And we can only find that out by getting inside and demanding the answers, because we don't get them today.
Two projects that in particular that I'll be watching, because I'm thinking maybe the bitumen, 8 inches or 10 inches of bitumen, is better than a bitumen overlay on concrete, because the bitumen is going to allow the water through anyway.
They did say on the Waverly Underpass that they were going to do concrete and switch it over to the asphalt because they felt in testing that it was just the same.
Yeah, Logan Avenue Underpass was just done. I'm going to be watching that to see how it survives over the next couple of years.
Okay.
And also Wall Street, they're laying bitumen there now.
Okay.
So I'll be watching.
It'll be interesting. We'll follow those with you.
Yeah, and if it's a better way to do it, great, fantastic, do it.
Yeah, I agree.
To do with road construction, I contacted you when they did Portage here.
Yes.
Last year, and that took forever. Could they not be doing it in the evenings, weekends?
Yeah.
Like, why can't they do contracts where you have to have it done and you have to do it?
Yeah, they do it in Nova Scotia, and it's highly successful. They're done within 24 hours, moving on to the next section.
Down here, it took months to do this.
Yeah. So we did do a motion at council to have 24-hour construction projects in certain areas they could be approved. So we've been following up on that to find out how many are going. There's been a few. There have been a few, and if they're working underground, they apparently will do that 24 hours because they're underground. So they're trying to be conscious of where homes are because of the beeping and so on that would happen at night. But we have to dig deeper into that, because if it's on a major road, if we can't do 24 hours, because we want to respect people's quality of life at the same time, can we do it from 7 till 9? 7 days a week. Can we do it 7 days a week? So that comes down to the contractors and what we put in the contract, right? We make the contract rules, we put it out there for tender. So we are the ones that are supposed to put that in there. And maybe we need to have stricter rules for when the job is done. Because I know crews will go start on one road, go to the next one, and then come back, finish this one, then go over that one and finish that one. And they're kind of, skirting all over the city. We need to find out why. Why is that happening, and what can we put into our contracts to make sure it doesn't happen? And you don't want to tell somebody they have to work 7 days a week, but if it's a contract, the contractor then has to develop their staffing to maintain that 7 day a week project. So you can either do it that way. I think the easiest way is just to say you can start in this date and it has to be done by this date. If it's not done by this date, there's a penalty every week after that. And let them figure it out. Back over there. Jack's really skinny. He really doesn't need all this exercise.
I got a quick one. She's going to be a little more angry than I am, so
who wants
I'll take it first.
Happy round table here.
Just for your list of to-dos, I'd like to see that every 100 feet or so on residential streets that the city actually plows through to the road. Quite frequently, we go to calls, paramedics, we can't get people out on the stretchers into the ambulance.
Yeah.
And I can tell you that some of the winters we've had, it used to be a mark of pride for my dad to send me out and tell me to shovel the snow on the road. Now that I look back and say that out loud, he's just getting me out of the house. But I think that's important for access, that because a lot of the people can't do it, and some of the people who are too proud to say no, they can't, they're causing grief for themselves by getting out there on these things. It's a young man's game to clear that snow out as the city requires. It would be nice if they had it, not for every house, but just enough so that we can scoot in with a stretcher or any other emergency service. I know we clear out at the hydrants, but it would be nice if we could get somebody to maybe pay attention to that. It just occurred to me now when I was listening to. And now
I think
you're talking about on the boulevards, right?
No, not the boulevards, just like from your house out to the road.
Okay, yeah, okay.
So I guess you could say boulevard, but that portion that the city makes you responsible for becomes too much of a burden for some of us to shovel it through.
I agree.
So the first answer to that would be, I have a solution. It's give us your phone number. And we'll send you out to do it because your dad thought you were really good at it, so we can help you. That would be good for you.
I'm still holding this microphone.
But the politicians will answer this question. This is what always drives me spinny when I hear politicians answer the question. There is a program in the city of Winnipeg that does that. You know about it? Do you know how to get to it? Do you know how to get them to help you with it? No.
What's the phone number?
Exactly. So that comes down to communication and the city website. That's one thing that when I got elected in 2018, I committed to and I have done and I will continue to do. It is important that you get the information. You might not like it, but you have to know what the information is. And if we do have a resource for you, we have to make it easier for you than calling 311 and ending up in a black hole. There has to be abilities for you to get the information you want. So we do provide for certain individuals or ages and such that crews will come out and clear a pathway for residents. Is it working? It obviously is not. Can we do better? Yes. But that is one of those short-term things where we go in and improve the communication of the city and let people know how to resource that, let counselors get engaged in that, because as counselors, they don't tell you that exists.
I go out and I flag them down and I get them to do Lawrence or the next, like I make sure they clear it.
Yeah.
She gets out in front of
Yeah,
the
I
wall.
stand right
Okay,
up.
so there's the other solution.
Yeah.
Throw your body in front of
Look at that. We've solved two problems just like that.
What's your phone number?
We know who the seniors are, so we'll
Yeah.
go and do that.
And I can't do
Yeah.
that if,
And just
See
say
their walkway.
there was a flag there, post disabled.
yeah, that would be good.
That would be a good one too. Yep, it's all about communication. So I can't say, oh, the city's not doing it, because they are. Legitimately they are. But we have to approve that program because it is a valid point. I have heard it from other people, so it's a good point.
My husband is on YouTube. Adding to this, he's the off-road diver on YouTube. He has several videos, especially during the snowstorms, of him in his Trailblazer with a scoop, shoveling off the side as much of the sidewalk as he can with the Trailblazer, to homes of elders and disabled people, some families, especially families with sick children, as fast as he can. And there's several times on those videos, Winnipeg police will be like, "You being careful?" And he's like, "Yep," and they'll do that, keep going. Normally that would be a ticket, but the fact that he's clearing it. So yeah, now that we know that the city's responsible, we can at least maybe get more help for people.
Right. We have the fastest aging population in Winnipeg.
Yeah.
We have a very fast aging population that people want to age in their homes. It's their home. They don't want to have to move. And I think these are people you have to respect because they've built the city.
Yeah.
They've done a lot to build the city for us. That's why we have what we have today. And it's important for us to take care of each other. That's part of, again, finding we have the solution. There is a way to fix it there, but we haven't communicated or we're not sharing it with residents. So sometimes a lot of issues come down to proper communication, and we need to make it easier. There'll be something we'll come out and talk about 3 months soon because I spoke to the guy who created it. and had a long conversation with them. And it's interesting the tools that are available to us that we're not utilizing. And that's part of being brave enough to take on the public service, if you will, or the establishment and say, no, listen, we are here, we're obligated to, fulfill the desires of residents. We're obligated to spread their message, not yours. We're here to work with you to make sure that the needs of residents are being met. Can you do it in everything? No. It's just impossible. You can't make everybody happy. But you got to do the best job that you can. And there's other little problems that I think are easy to fix when you start communicating about them. So.
This is Karen from Wannabe's Diner, and she is very involved with politics and safety, and it's my honor to give her the microphone now.
Oh, no.
All of a sudden, it's an entertainment show.
In my own restaurant, I can be on the soapbox.
Okay.
I can be very opinionated. And so going back to the beginning of this, I've owned a restaurant for 29 years in West Broadway. I've sat on the biz board for 16 years. I've seen the, 5 steps forward and 10 steps back all these years. Going back to the beginning where you're talking about safety, I feel it makes me mad. I go to work down Portage Ave at 6 in the morning. Every bus shack is broken. Every derelict is sitting in it. Luggage, every picture you can imagine. And I just think nothing's been done year after year after year. Just 2 minutes ago, aging population, safety. Aging population safety should be number one. I'm a terrible speaker, but for self-employed people, I own my own building. I pay a ton of taxes. We get broken windows. I pick up needles. I sometimes have to park on Broadway to run into my restaurant at 6 in the morning because I can't even get in because everyone in the back. To be waiting for someone to come through the front door so I can move my car before 7 before I get a ticket from the city of Winnipeg. I can't even walk into my own building safely. I don't know. I'm mad. I am truly mad. I'm mad that I have 2 kids that, one's just grown up from university and now they're looking at this city where I've raised my kids here. I've had my business here. We have cottages here. Love Winnipeg to say, Mom, I want out. That shouldn't be. And
I have a son that was drafted by the Hamilton Tiger Cats. He's 6'3", about 300 pounds. He's a big boy. He doesn't want to be in Winnipeg. He doesn't want to walk downtown. And he should be able to walk downtown. He should absolutely be able to walk downtown, but it does bother him. What's that?
Needs a permit.
Yeah. It's always got to be one. I hear you. Do you have security cameras on your building at all?
No, I'm my own security.
You're your own security?
Except for when these 2 come in.
Okay. So you have no security?
No.
Have you ever thought about that? Has anyone ever talked to you about that?
No, that's annoying for me. Because it's annoying for me. And for me, I feel like I'm captain of the ship. Like, I can have 35 people sitting in my restaurant and I get them coming through. Like, I'm on Broadway. I deal with it all.
Yeah.
I don't have, where does the security camera get you anyways? Like, every day you can go on Wild Winnipeg and something's getting stolen. It's all on camera. They never catch them.
Yeah.
And I have to deal with it in the moment. And it's a constant thing. And it always has been. But definitely, with the addiction or whatever, no leadership, none, 0 in the city for years upon years. And this is where we're at.
Yes.
And,
I hear you. I really do. I've talked about safe communities and safe neighborhoods since being elected. Factually, we have to look at what's happened. We don't want to paint. We're not going to paint anybody with a negative brush here. We have a growing city, which is fantastic, right? We're proud of our city, and it's growing. We have some fabulous places to go visit, but they need to be safe. They need to be safe. The Forks needs to be a safe place to go if you want tourists to come. They need to be a focal point. I think, unfortunately, we have politicians again that are virtue signaling, and they don't want to say certain things out of fear or retribution. And that's going to happen. I spent like 20 years refereeing hockey, and I've heard everything. And heard it all. But you have to do the best job you can while you're out there. But I also believe that taking the city and cleaning up the city is going to take all of us. We're going to all have to stand up together. You know, whether that's getting together to clean up, get out there one day and pick up the garbage and show that we're proud of our city and getting that work done, working together with neighboring businesses and working with the community and the police service to talk about ways that how can we, find answers to this, not just put it on a social issue. If you can, as a child, I remember if I could get away with something, I'd keep doing it. Yeah. And I'd probably try harder to do something, if I could get one chocolate bar, I'll go for 4 until I find out what that limit is. And I don't think that's any different, right? So, but what we have to do, really, and I think that's what's happened, and you can see that in the city with not a lot of people running for office, is people have given up. We cannot give up on Winnipeg. We cannot give up on Winnipeg. I met with a gentleman the other day who's on Broadway. All of their windows got smashed. Had them replaced. The next day, all of the windows got smashed.
And everyone's favorite line, insurance. No, we don't have insurance. That's out of our pocket. So when I listen to you talk about, that 1% and all this money, so I go to work 6 days a week to constantly pay for building another homeless shelter. I don't know. For me, after a while, it gets a little irritating because I'm a single mom putting my 2 kids to university by working 6 days a week.
Yeah.
And replacing windows and doing graffiti and picking up needles.
Right.
And protecting my customers.
Yeah.
I don't know. A lot to ask for the amount of taxes I pay.
So it is, but again, what I'm saying is that there's short-term, there are ways we can fix this. And I believe the number one way is to admit that there's a problem, to accept responsibility for the problem, because I haven't seen any politician at any level or anybody running for office accept the realization or admit we have a serious problem. I don't want to hear, Calgary's having a problem too, or Regina's having a problem. I don't live there. I live here. And I want to take care of our city. I want to take care of our residents. So we need to get in there and create the conversations, but it can't just be talk anymore. We have to put things into action. So we might have to work together with business owners in a certain district. How can we help each other? How can the city be a part of that help? It's hard to, you hear a lot of people saying, we have too many police. We don't have enough police. 20 years ago, the city of Winnipeg was smaller. We had 28 cars that patrolled the city of Winnipeg. Since then, Waverly West came along and parts of Transcona that are bigger than Brandon. Brandon has 100 police officers. Do you know how many police officers were added to the city of Winnipeg to protect our streets?
0.
None. So I'm not advocating saying we need more police, we need this, we need that. But we need to start talking about how do we take a proactive approach at protecting our neighborhoods. And not just one neighborhood, all of the neighborhoods. There are answers out there, and if we continue to wait for somebody else to bring the answer forward, we're going to lose our city. It's just, we're not going to want to be here. People aren't going to want to be here, and they're going to want to move away. The hardest thing for us, and for Heather and I, is, Heather's constantly selling the benefits of Winnipeg to our kids. I mean, the daughters are brilliant. They could be anywhere in the country. But you got to stay here. And that's what we have to do now, is maybe get together as city leaders and as business people and say, okay, how do we fix this problem? Let's fix this now. What does that take? Do we need to work here, or do we need to have, maybe we need to come by more often, or maybe we need to have city patrols or something? How do we fix it? And any politician that can come forward and say, here's my 10-point plan on how I'm going to address crime? No, sorry. No. I've been working with police for the 4 years I've been there. I've been involved with the service. I've gone on ride-alongs. I've been in the car at 3 o'clock in the morning going from call to call to call. I've been in the police helicopter. I've walked around with the bear plant. I wanted to see it. And I wanted to be a part of it. And I see it from a different light because that's kind of the where I grew up. So I think you have to, again, I stress this a lot, and I hate to do that, but we can't give up on the city. That's why this election is so critical. People have come forward with different platforms. I'm coming forward with a one commitment that we're going to get the job. We're going to work on it day one. We're going to get in there. We're going to admit we have the problems. We're going to bring the people to the table that can fix them. I should not be telling police officers how to do their job. That's not my role. I don't know. Right? I know what I want. I know what we need. But you have to let those that are experts at it help fix the problems. You have to have people with lived experience. When we met with Marion, we talked to 5 kids that you probably would have looked at and thought, oh, my gosh. They are dedicated to this city and to helping those people downtown, and they get very little support from the city. But they go out there night and day, just talking, trying to get them into a program, trying to help. So if we don't become proactive, we're just going to continue down this path. And we have to become proactive. And I wish I could give you more details. We're still working on it. But we have a program that we've talked to the association about that they support, right? We have to get everybody at the table. Just trying to come up with our own plan and force it down some way or pretend like we can run a police service. You don't want politicians running a police service. Trust me. You don't want that. Because then it becomes political. But we want to have the problems addressed, and we need to have those conversations. And I think right now, we're not. We're hiding and we're running from our problems and trying to say, oh, well, that's, provincial's in charge of social services or the feds have to work on the homelessness. But we have, again, I'll go back to it, we have vacant land that the city owns all over the place. We have buildings. We have buildings on Graham, 3 floors that cost us $500,000 a year to keep the lights off. Why are we utilizing that? For programs. Why are we giving it 500? It's really great when politicians get together and they announce, oh, we gave away, $500,000 to these 10 different groups. How far is that going to go to solve the problem? Why not sit down with them and say, who's best at what? And what do you need to get the job done? And what are the milestones going to be? What are you going to accomplish during that time? That's not a negative. That's not being forceful. That's not being unreasonable to say, what are the residents going to get for this and how many people can you help with this? And we want to know how many people you help. That's just simple accountability. We all have it. And I think the biggest reason, because I went back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, that I did this is I thought, and I listened to people, they really have given up on city politics. They've stopped fighting City Hall. And this is the prime thing too, and I think we can change it on October 27th, the day after.
Any questions here, Kevin?
You probably can't tell, but I eat at her restaurant.
The food's not very good, I guess.
I guess I'm looking for a comment from you or your thoughts about the city bureaucrats, top bureaucrats, because we have problems at City Hall, and it seems like, well, there may be issues with the way City Council conducts itself. It seems like a lot of this stuff doesn't get done because bureaucrats are blocking things. I'll give you an example. I'm a retired police officer. I policed back when the cars were black and white the first time.
Out of 12.
Just about. We had a problematic house in a neighborhood. So I had gone out and got a search warrant so we could go and search and close the property so that the residents around there would have peace of mind and the solution. But we needed some help from the city department to get electrical inspectors and such so we could hit them with everything and close this problem house for good. So when we went down there, the top bureaucrat there said, we don't do that, we'll send them a letter. And I said, a letter isn't going to help the people that live in the neighborhood. We need to action this, and we're ready to go. We have police, we have other people, we have a search warrant, we need you to provide inspectors. He says, well, we're not going to do that. So I then was also armed with a memo from Susan Thompson, the mayor at the time, that she crafted a one-page memo that said, from the mayor's office, all city departments will cooperate with each other. And I produced that, and he said, well, that's the mayor, but we're not going to. And I said, well, it's the mayor's instructions, and you're going to do it. And then I had to get firm with him maybe even really firm. And he gave in and he provided them. And then when we were able to use that department afterwards, and I had no trouble with the guy, but we had to really crack the ice hard. And I find that since that time, my confidence in the bureaucrats is quite shaken, and I find that they're not there to serve anybody except themselves. I don't think they provide service to the counselors that need information, and I don't think they provide anything to the citizens, and I'm not sure what the solution is, whether these guys have a 5-year rotation or 3-year rotation and they're gone, but they get set in their ways and they're there for years and nothing changes and nothing gets past them.
Bureaucrats aren't allowed to talk to.
Pardon me?
Bureaucrats aren't allowed to talk to the public or journalists. It all has to go through their spin doctors. There's a whole office at City Hall that
Communication
says what they're supposed to say. So it's never gonna find
Okay, well, whatever they're supposed to say, they're not doing what they're supposed to do. Is my point. So I'm just wondering if there's a plan to deal with these top level bureaucrats that have their own little power structures and they ain't giving it up.
So the quick answer is yes. I think that what I bring, and I'm the only person that really has come forward that can say that they've worked for 3 of Canada's top national companies, successful companies. I've learned from some very well recognized and individuals, from Mike Sifton to Conrad Black to I had the pleasure of spending some time with Ron Joyce, who was one of the founding partners of Tim Hortons, who we lost just a few years ago. Wonderful man. And in that time, I managed to listen and to watch. And the one thing that I can tell you, and I saw it very quickly at City Hall, is that when you have no accountability, somebody's going to grab the power.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody wants power. Everybody. And with no accountability, there's no way to control it. And no disrespect, but unless someone comes in with the experience of dealing with senior level management, like I have, how are they going to deal with senior level management if they've never had that experience? If they've never done that? They may have worked with the public service in the past, they may believe that they have a way to control that, but you're right. At the end of the day, when there's no accountability, there's no rules, someone's going to grab the power. City council is supposed to have that power for you. Every elected official that comes to City Hall has 400 or 45,000 residents that have selected them for that job, to hold people accountable, not to be cheerleaders for what they think is the right answer from the public service. It's not a disrespectful comment. You have to go in there and we have to lead. You have to be brave enough to do that. And it's not going to be easy. I suspect that I'll be the target of lots of stuff because I push back against the establishment. I grew up fighting for everything that I had. But one of the things that I'll fight for now is the people. Like, this city has been great to me and I will fight for you. When you get into City Hall, when we get into City Hall, we want to establish milestones. These are the achievables that we expect from the public service that need to be public so that you know what they are. Do you know that over the course of, I don't know how many years, because I'm trying to dig back and it's impossible to get the answer. But I don't know of any politician off the top of my head that does performance reviews of the executives of the city of Winnipeg. I think we can go back to before Susan Thompson. How do you run a management team without talking to them and having performance reviews? You all have to have them, right? You've had them or you have to have them. They're a part of the job. They're actually the best thing for employees sometimes because it gives them an opportunity to know where to focus their time and attention and get better and get higher up the ladder. But we're not doing that at City Hall. We have allowed the City Council to become cheerleaders. That's why you see the pictures and all the nice announcements. Meanwhile, we have bus shelters in the situation they're in. We've had, unfortunately, just in the St. James area, a home invasion where people couldn't get there, where we didn't have the resources to go there, right away.
6 days.
4.
6 days.
Four.
Was it 4?
4 days. 4 days. And I'm going to tell you, I don't think any member of the Winnipeg Police Service wakes up and says, I'm not going to respond to that one. It's troubling for them. It's troubling for them.
There was another one where there was someone sleeping on the woman's couch, and the 911 operator told her to wake the person up.
Oh yeah, that was in West End.
Oh, no.
No, never.
Guys, we're running out of time here. We've already passed our time in the room, so we'll do one last question. And
Lady right there, and then
right
yourself,
here.
and then that gentleman.
Okay, thank you.
Did you want one?
We got to be
No?
quick though. We're
Okay.
over our time already.
15 seconds.
Kevin, I just really appreciate if you could comment.
There's more of us than that. We can take them.
I'd really appreciate if you could comment on the Winnipeg Regional Health Authority, because I think it is a hub. When we talk about a lot of nonprofit organizations who step into that system, there is bureaucracy, I truly believe, needs to be cut back there. There's many people who have some wonderful suggestions about how to redesign and reconfigure, because health is a huge issue for our people in the city of Winnipeg. So could you please talk about any plans on the WRHA?
Well,
its needs?
I really...
And the effect that it's having on the citizens of Winnipeg?
Yeah, I think there's a major impact. I mean, my mother-in-law, God bless her, she fell, broke her kneecap, and had to wait in the hallway of an emergency room for over a day. Nothing had happened. Like, we were trying to get her care. And I know what it did to my wife, and I watched that process. I know that they're struggling and they're having problems. But I hate to say this, but it's a provincial issue, and I'm not going to pile more onto them, but I will say that maybe we can lead by example in bringing and having the advisory groups that bring experienced, life experienced people, lived experienced people, and show that that's a way to help here.
That's fine to say advisory groups, but those advisory groups have to in fact have some power.
Yeah.
And right now they don't have any power.
Right.
Oftentimes they are politically appointed.
Yeah.
Which doesn't really speak on behalf of the citizens and their needs. So if anything, my suggestion would be to change that around and allow them to have some power and some negotiation back and forth and transparency with the mayor and his office.
So it doesn't report to the mayor, right? It reports to the premier's office.
Oh, okay. From the health budget.
Right.
Yeah.
So that doesn't come from the city of Winnipeg either.
No.
That's all provincial.
WRHA is totally provincial?
Totally provincial.
Just has Winnipeg.
Winnipeg is just the region that which they service.
No.
Yeah.
But I hear your concerns from a lot of people, and I have to believe that that the concerns are being heard. I think as in this community, the mayor should not be telling how other levels of government how to do their job unless we're doing ours better. I think that we have to focus on our problems, but be supportive of our provincial. Like we report up, so it goes to the province, to the federal government. I think that we're all feeling the crisis, especially after the pandemic.
Yeah.
And I think we learned a lot during that time about our medical system, our abilities, our capabilities. And I think that we'll get people that want to address that and fix that. I think we can help by leading the city, by taking action on the problems that we're having. Some of them touch the Manitoba public health system, and we can work closely with them to find ways that we could be better together. Find ways that maybe we have building space or space where we could help more with addictions like we've talked about, or with private facilities to bring in addictions recovery programs that are effective, that work, that will help our people, that will make sure people get home. And I think if we do our part and we work hard at our part, then that allows them to work hard at their part. I'm really uncomfortable on talking about provincial issues because I know that that's been a source of friction and division in the city between the mayors, present and past mayors. between the province and the city, and that, I think that comes down to, we're 700,000 people, the province is 1 million. And I don't want to do that. I'd rather be here to be supportive, but my first concern is going to be the citizens of Winnipeg. And maybe how we can help is working with our paramedics through the WHRA or WRHA. I keep wanting to say the WHA. Right? The Jets. I think that we need to work on on what we're delivering for them as well, and the programs and space that we have. So I really do.
So many of our nonprofit organizations and organizations that we have within the city of Winnipeg, whether they be with youth or with the seniors,
they go up through the province.
Not
all of them.
Well, they all communicate with and the WRHA affects.
Right.
Obviously, things that could be done better for those organizations.
Yeah.
And I don't see them working collaboratively at all.
Yep. And you know what? All I would do is encourage all of these groups to sit down together. I think what we've done is we've created a lot of division in this country, this city, this province over the last several years. We have a lot of different groups and different silos, and we're all going in different directions, and everyone has an answer for something. But we need to finally sit down and say there's only one answer, and that's working together to start addressing the problem, and hopefully they will take that on as well. We will, as mayor, will certainly be there to encourage, but we certainly won't be there to point fingers and point blame and add more pressure to the job that they have, because they have a very important job as well. And we need to work on our problems here in the city. So I hate to do that. I hate to pass the buck, as they say, but it wouldn't be appropriate for me to talk about how the system is working today. Knowing that they're working on that system, we have to give them a chance to fix that system. It might be a different government, it might be our current government. We don't know. We have to be there to help them, and support them.
One last person. I
think we had a couple back here, so we're okay. Yeah, I'm okay. I asked Heather if I could stay up late.
Okay, good. Permission, we're good.
Right, Heather? She said no, but I'm up.
I don't know if you may have guessed I work for the city.
Yeah, I got that.
I've been 26 years, so I've worked in EB&D and zoning and permits, and now I'm at City Hall.
I wouldn't have said any of that in this crowd.
So, my personal thing is contract negotiations are going on right now.
Yes.
We're negotiating for 1.5 years.
Yeah.
With no solution.
Yeah.
And the latest thing is that City Hall negotiator said they need a mandate permission for City Hall to increase their offer, and they're just stalling. It's been now, council's out. They can't even make a decision now.
That never comes to council.
No?
No.
No.
We find out about contracts after the cities sign them, and then they come to us and say, is this okay to sign? Have you already done that? So I don't know why they even bring it to council. I have been involved with several contract negotiations across this country. They are not as bad as everybody says they are. Everyone can be reasonable. Everyone can get to the table and we all want the same. They live in Winnipeg. We live in Winnipeg. It doesn't have to be what it is. I've already asked several questions about the negotiation and got this much information.
You're getting up. That's what I was wondering if you had any more information.
Right. We can't talk publicly about a private matter. It's not that private. Everybody knows about it. I don't know if you've been listening, but it is, and it's not a private matter. That's the problem with how City Hall is responding. That's councillors that don't have the experience. It's leaders and mayors that have gone in there that have no idea.
I told our union guys to go to the media, and this will all be solved in a week. And no, we can't do that. Why?
Well, you don't want to negotiate public. I mean, I get it. I understand what you're saying, but sometimes you don't want to negotiate publicly. But listen, everything should be done fair and reasonably, right? We know what the concerns are, and we need to share those concerns with all of the representatives of the city employees. And I would prefer that we have those discussions and that councillors were involved in them. But obviously the public service doesn't have any faith in councillors being available or being able to make that solution or be beneficial.
So it's one person holding this whole thing up there, as far as we know then. But one negotiator's.
That's your words.
I've heard about him actually from other people that I've met. So.
I've in all my years in the corporate world, I've never had a contract go that long, ever. Maybe a couple of months, because there was industry changes and some changes that we needed to make. But we've always been able to come to a mutual agreement that's in the best interest of the organization. And I think if we can reach a mutual agreement, that could be in the best interest of the city and its employees. We have to.
Got my vote then.
Hi Kevin, I just want to reflect back on transit. We had this commentary earlier with those out of time areas that lady suffers with and stuff. I was just wondering, that's a cost reflection possibly in some ways they're saying, but what's your thoughts and stance on the rapid corridor and the expenditures being put on that? And on a second question related to that, those new areas are probably being constructed to a higher loading level because of the nature of the vehicles and everything else. And has there ever been any thought put into using them as joint use corridors, mainly with larger commercial vehicles, get them off during during peak hours, and use it as a good corridor, and then the normal transit, people in transit can get to work quicker, time in motion stuff, just a thought.
So, I want to be candid on this one. I did not vote for the transit plan that just came out. And I was very public about that because I felt, number one, it didn't address the main concern of why people aren't riding the bus, and that's safety. We didn't talk about it, we didn't approach it, we ignored it, it wasn't discussed, it's not being handled. The second part is that we are basing a lot of these applications on it. You challenge your councillors. When funding becomes available or opportunities to apply for grants become available, we come up with projects. Do they make sense all the time? No. Right? We have been doing bus rapid transit in the city of Winnipeg for what, 25, 30 years? It started a long time ago. That's what we're going to do in the city of Winnipeg. And I don't want to go into a big, long discussion, but if we're going to grow the city and we're going to move into the next century, or at least to the 19th century, we need to have the conversation about, if we're building bus rapid transit, how do we just make it LRT, as Brian Mays talked about. Now, that's a lot of cost and that's a lot of expense, but that's the long-term plan when you're looking at that, because if you go to other, like Salt Lake City just did that, and they have buses that will feed in, they have a north-south and an east-west line, and then buses feed to them, and then they can quickly get to where they're wanting to go. They did it in a way that they could provide safety for their passengers, and how you get in the building, how you get onto the train, and so on. Why aren't we having those discussions instead of still trying today to, fulfill a dream someone had 25 years ago when nobody else is doing that? But we have one of the biggest bus manufacturers in North America. And I've met with them, and they've gone to the city with plans that were turned away. They want to be able to have people come to Winnipeg and showcase what they are capable of. We should be working with this group. We should be working as again, I hate the word collaboration now, but we should be working together and not talking about, well, that's us, this is you, that's ours, you can't touch this, we've got to do this, it's got to follow this, we've always done it this way, we've always done it this way. We need to sit there and say, okay, we need a new way because this way and that way isn't working anymore. And we need counselors and leaders that are brave enough to have that conversation and to sit at that table for as long as it takes. You don't always agree on everything, but we have to agree in the end, what is the best solution for Winnipeg? And as long as we can all walk out and go, yeah, that's the best solution for Winnipeg. It might not be my personal needs or my, legacy dreams or whatever it might be, but it's the best for Winnipeg. I remember being in Calgary when they built the C train that went into the middle of a field. I thought that was ridiculous. But now, they've got to go further, right? Because they were thinking ahead. So really, I think the very first thing you have to do, to Fran's point, is it has to be efficient. Our transit system has to be efficient. It has to be effective. It has to be safe. We talk about the millions of dollars transit is using. You hear about this a lot. And you hear politicians say, oh, it's because we don't get the same funding we got before. Or is it because I met with the union that told me 5,000 to 10,000 people a day do not pay to get on the bus?
Yeah.
We're told, the drivers are told, don't worry about it. Well, then what are we doing? So how do we keep blaming the transit system or saying, how do you come and say, well, the problem is we need more bus rapid transit because then people will really use it. Well, yeah, it just means more people won't pay. So if you're going to have the service, if it needs to be reasonably priced for people so that they can get to and from their jobs safely and efficiently so that, Fran or anybody else doesn't have to take an hour and a half to get from point A to point B when you could walk it in an hour, that's the kind of stuff we need to be working on. If the transit, if nobody's paying for transit, we need a plan. But we need to sit down with that transit advisory committee. And the transit advisory committee needs to be made up of people that are riding the bus, that have to get from point A to point B, not somebody who drives a car, right? You want somebody who's actually on the system, who knows where the problems are, and to talk openly about it. So with the transit corridors, I think what they're talking about and all this money is just to get federal funds, right? Really neat political statements to make. I brought in this. That was me. Well, it was federal funding and taxpayers' dollars. Okay, great. But was it the right thing? Was it effective for the city? I mean, to go back to Juba's day, wasn't it Juba that wanted the monorail and everyone thought it was crazy? Yeah. Can't do it now, but I mean, thinking ahead. At least he had the vision and they were starting the conversation. And that's what you need to do, is start rolling the snowball down the hill. And then you'll find the answers to do this. So I think focusing all this attention and all this effort on transit when 6,000 people a day ride it for free, figure it out, the money we're losing. We have to fix these problems first. Then we start doing the long-term planning.
Toronto has transit police that are on the buses to enforce paying their fees.
Yeah.
We have too many paramedics or firefighters. We have less than 3% of calls for fires. We have a lot of firemen that are well trained in management, and we could be putting some of them on the buses to make it safe.
Firefighters?
Well, they're trained in managing might be.
The hose would get caught in the door.
I am going to just interrupt. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming out tonight. I'm just respectful of the time of the facility that we're using. It's thrilling to see so many engaged people coming out, sharing your thoughts, and an opportunity for Kevin to hear what you have to say, and we can incorporate it into the plan going forward. So thank you so much. Kevin will be in the room for a little bit. Don't mind us as we're cleaning up and putting tables and chairs away, but please feel free to stick around for a few minutes. Oh yes, and we are going to continue the conversation. The town halls will continue next week, and you're going to make me remember this off the top of my head. We are in River Heights. We are at the
1370 Grosvenor.
Thank you.
1370
Grosvenor, the community center, Court and Community Center, yeah. And you're welcome to come again or tell your friends. We're going to be advertised again, but we're going to continue this conversation because it is really valuable for us going forward for the city.
And will you move throughout the city?
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, we're going all the way.
Yes, sir.